Welcome to my weekly review. You're looking at a daily chart of the Nasdaq, which had a 27% correction, from 20,204 peak to trough 14,784, and now has had a 54% rally as it traded from 14,784. We got liberated. And then on Monday of last week, we traded at an all-time high of 22,801, and that's more than a 54% rally thus far. I know folks ask me how long can this last? It can last a long time. We got a little bit of a pullback last week as it traded down to the 10, but on Friday closed above the 10, just a tick above the 10, 0.4%. If we look at the weekly chart, we can see that it was down 147 points last week, or a third of a percent. Barely looks like a blip on the radar here. There you can see the pullback. This is the 4-week line or the 20-day line, whatever. 4 weeks, 20 days, something like that. But anyway, it found support and then rallied back above, like I said, of the 10-day. On Friday, it was up 100 points or 0.44% on lighter volume and closed at 22,484. So, quite a bit off the old 22,801 that it made on Monday, this day here. So it'll rally back above that level here as we're in complete melt up mode. And pullback is good. We're in the last week of September. The fourth quarter starts Wednesday, October 1. So we have a couple more sessions here. We might see some profit taking or some weakness, but I think the fourth quarter it's set up for a rally here. And I'm going to show you that towards the end of this video. So a lot of these stocks are set up in bases. I think they're ready to move, but I'm not going to get there yet because what moves these indexes are stocks, the big stocks. The Dow made a high last week also, 46,714. And then everybody likes to follow the SPY. I don't really care. I trade stocks, not the indexes. You can see it pull back to its 21 on Thursday, a little bounce on Friday. And then the IWM, the risk index, pull back to its 21, bounce Friday. So very consistent pattern. So maybe we'll start our fourth quarter rally early on Monday. How about that? I've been going through a lot of charts and there's a lot of stocks set up in base. I'll post a ready list there on Monday morning, but I'm not quite there yet. All right, I have to go through the Mag 7 because what moves the indexes are these large, Dow Jones components like Amazon. They got a ruling on Friday about their canceling their Prime membership. I guess it's hard to cancel. I don't know. I don't know why you'd want to cancel it, but I guess there's a lawsuit and they got fined what 2.5 billion. And if you're a Prime member, you can get like $50 back or whatever. Not a big deal, but that's a slap on the wrist for Amazon, which is, a $2.3 trillion company. I think they'll gladly accept that and move on. So that barrier or that obstacle, that source of it's been clarified. And I think it's going to start to rally now, much like Google did when it got its decision from Judge Mehta. And it's been rallying ever since. Yeah, pulled back a little bit last week. A lot of stocks pulled back last week. I'll get to that in a minute as well. Big deal, down, 3%. It's been on a big run. So we want to see pullbacks, right? You don't want it to go up and up and up every day. Of course, some people do, but pullbacks are healthy and it gives some people a chance to take profits and get off the train, and then others to, get on the train and or the rocket ship and trade higher, whatever analogy you want to use. We're going to the moon, so we got to go there in a rocket ship. Google has been doing well. Meta, not so much. It's pulled back, but see, it's still setting up in a base. It undercut the 50. We'll see about that. I think it's going to rally back through. Now, earnings season, we're in between earnings season right now. And we have the Fed rate cuts, to look forward to. We have the Fed kind of behind us a little bit now because he made that decision already. They cut once. And so we're kind of like in no man's land here waiting for earnings season. And I think these stocks are going to have, pretty strong earnings. I'm talking about, yeah, Meta, Google, Amazon, and even Tesla. Although Tesla's more of a, I got to go to the weekly charts on these. Tesla had a really good week, up 3.5%. So no pullback for Tesla. You can see it broke out of this base here and it's just been rallying every week. I think it's going higher, a lot higher. I think they got an upgrade yesterday from Dan Ives, who's always, perma bull. But I think it was from 500 to 600 was their price target. On Tesla, Apple is another one, one of the larger companies here, Dow Jones Components, SPY, Nasdaq. This one moves the indexes set up in a base here, right? Just consolidating. It's been super strong since they started selling their iPhone 17 or whatever it is. It's been selling, I guess it's been selling. Reports are saying that it's selling well. So we'll have to wait and see till they report earnings. Yeah, that was up 4% last week. Well, the Nasdaq pulled back, which is pretty rare. There you can see the big jump, kind of sideways, but yeah. Yeah, Apple looks good. Set up in a base. Microsoft, another Dow Jones component. SPY, Nasdaq. You can see it just setting up in a base here. It's only been 8 weeks. Give it some more time. On the daily, you could see, it needs to build the right side of the base here, but I think these things are looking good. And NVIDIA, I think it's the last of these magnificent seven. Yeah, this one's looking good as well, consolidating within a base. You can see those moving averages, the three moving averages there are within, what, a 0.5% of each other. Yeah, I think this thing's getting ready to go. But like I said, they just reported earnings. It'll be a while. Broadcom is another one. It had a big move. It was just pulling back to its moving averages. So we saw, yeah, a lot of stocks pulling back here, 3% last week. And I'll get to that in a minute. I just wanted to, do like the old housekeeping. You gotta cover the Mag 7 because they're the ones that move the index. All right, let me go through some themes here. And I'm going to start with the gold stocks because gold has just been outperforming all year. I'm going to start with AU. The commodity itself, gold has been parabolic, and these stocks are kind of parabolic. AU is up what, almost 4% on Friday. But you can see this just from lower left to upper right. That's how you want your stocks to look, right? The last I don't know, 4 years, and here's your last year. These things are the top performing group is the gold stocks, and gold itself has just gone parabolic, and so have these stocks. HMY, though, this is one that's set up in a base here. I don't think I put this one on my ready list last week, but you can see it ran up to that old buy point, pulled back the last couple days, and on Friday ran up nearly 6%. And it's not just gold, it's silver too. Silver, this is PAAS, just ripping, and then copper. This is Ivanhoe Electric. This is one that I like. And I was looking at it, it was 8, then it was 9, then it was 10. Now Friday it was 12. So let's see what that looks like on the weekly chart. Yeah, that thing really ramped hard at 26% last week. Nice move. But yeah, all these gold, silver, copper stocks are just ramping. This one's up practically every week. WPM, Wheaton Precious Metals. And I think it's prudent just to put one in your portfolio. This is the one that I chose because it was set up in a base. Kind of an easy hold. They just kind of grind higher. They're not big, fast movers, but I think it's prudent to own one of them at least. This is DRD. This is a South African gold stock. And you can see that one's going parabolic, just straight up, right? Last week was quad witching, and it had the highest volume, but you could see the big volume bars are blue. There's institutions buying these, right? Look at this. The old blue wall of volume. And then SSRM. This this one's going parabolic too. High volume move every week. I mean, it was up what, almost 6% last week. It broke out of a base. It's been ripping higher. I mean, there's nothing to do here. It's surfing the moving averages like Kelly Slater and just trading higher. I mean, that's a thing of beauty right there. All right, I could do this for all the gold stocks because they all look the same. KGC, Ego. Ego. I love the ticker symbol, Eldorado Gold. They all look the same. They're just going higher. And so at MC Stock Charts, I'm posting some charts of the 1 year and the 10 year, just showing how the commodity gold itself is just appreciated and has started to go parabolic this year in 2025. We don't know how long it'll last or how high it will go, but you just ride it until it crashes, right? You ride that trend till it bends at the end. All right, I'm going to move on to the energy names. Energy's in the news a lot because of the data center plays, build out, I should say, which is serious build out. This is GEV, which is pulled back here, consolidating in a base. You can see this here. It's been what, the 8 weeks, down 3% last week. To me, this thing looks like it's getting ready to blast off, and not ready yet. That's why I'm bullish on the fourth quarter. I think a lot of these stocks are going to appreciate, especially after we hear the earnings report. I think earnings will be pretty good. BE, Bloom Energy, pulled back last week, and how, back to the 21. If you owned it, when it was up here the prior week, made that high, 85.40, and you're going 86.89. Yippee-ki-yay, we're going higher, and like, no, sir, we're going down 17%. And this is just profit taking, right? It's had a hell of a run from what, $30 to 86. Yeah, so it comes back a little bit. You get some people who just take profits. They get off the train or sell partials, and you got some people who want to add or get on the train. So nothing wrong with the pullback. That's healthy. Speaking of OKLO, which made a high last week, what, 144.49, pull back the last 3 days, but no harm, no foul. You got to expect that. Down 18%. I mean, this thing went from $17, right, to 145. Did I say something like that? Yeah. So come on. There's going to be some profit taking along the way. It's 23.5% off the high after being down. Yeah, wow. Yeah, whew. That's pretty crazy. Very, very rapid move, right? Oh, okay, let me see here. What else do we have in this group? LEU, Centrist Energy, kind of the same thing. Ran up, pulled back. I think it was even up last week, though. Yeah, it was up almost 4%. So that's why you look at the weekly charts. This thing looks very good. The pullback was short-lived, huh? Back to the 10 EMA here on Thursday, and pull back, and then let's see what this looks like on a 5-minute chart. Because yeah, the pullback was here in the morning, just real quick pullback, and all of a sudden it was bought up a lot. That was a big day on Thursday, and then Friday it looks like it just went kind of sideways, even though it was down 2%. Other names in this group, nano nuclear energy, just a pullback. It ran up past that 43.75 5 point. Just pull back 15%. Just the old run-of-the-mill 15% pullback. But that's what you sign up for when you buy stuff like this, because they're going to have that high daily range. And it's great on the upside, but on the downside, down 19%. That's painful. I think this one was up to like 40, 47, yeah, 47 and a quarter, on what, Monday, and then sold off the rest of the week. Had an inside day on Friday. These things look fine to me, even though the pullbacks are extreme. That's kind of what you sign up for, high risk, high reward, and then, high pullbacks. Um, but overall, they're trending higher. CEG constellation, this one's set up in a base as well. This is what makes me bullish on Q4 here. Leading stocks like GEV, Constellation setting up in a base here, 8 weeks. 357 is the trigger. I wouldn't wait for that. Yeah. But yeah, those look good as well. Micron reported recently, ran up and then sold off after the report. That's pretty standard for Micron. Strong report. You can see here, we got accelerating sales growth, triple digit earnings growth. If we look at the weekly, it'll show us this trend here with the earnings line. And these are cyclical names, and the cycle is in favor of these stocks, the computer data storage stocks. The cycle is, and we're right in the middle of a strong cycle for these names. Seagate is another one. in this group. And look at this thing's just lower left to upright. Yeah, it pulled back a little bit last week, but you got to expect a pullback from time to time. This thing ran from, when it got liberated, it was down near $50, right? On the April 7th Liberation Day, 60, what, 63? Okay, it's at 217 now. Ran up to what, 231. So they've had big runs. WDC, Western Digital, same thing. That one was even up last week, barely. You call it flat. And then SanDisk, which has had a big run, a spinoff there from Western Digital, down 5% last week after making that high of 110.21. So that group has been super strong as well. But I'm gonna stop going through themes here, I think, because I want to get to something else today, and I don't think there's anything pressing that I really need to get to. Some of the semiconductor names and the data center names have pulled back, like a VRT, Vertiv Holdings, just consolidating within a base here, pull back to the 50 and found support. AMSC, which has been a super strong stock. Yeah, 58.42 ran up above it, now pulled back to the 21. It's right there at its trigger point. You can see this on the weekly, just a little bit of a base, a fake breakout and a pullback. Um, BWXT is another one in this group, just consolidating within a base. Yeah, these look good to me. POWL, Jerome Powell, ran up, now pulled back. This one looks good as well. Anyway, I want to segue out of themes and get to some of the pullbacks in the AI names, and it's fine, right? The ALAB had a big run here, was, consolidating between 180 and then ran up to what, 262 and now pulled back here. There's nothing wrong with that. It's pretty steep and severe. It was down 19% last week, but you got to expect that after a big run. There you can see these flag patterns, which were working like great, right? Ran up, formed a flag, ran up again, formed another flag, and then made that high, whoop, and then pulled back last week. That's fine. Just keep your eyeballs on it because it's going to find support and it's going to bounce at some point. That's what I watch for during these weeks where we see weakness, where the Nasdaq's pulling back. Some of these big stocks that have made big moves, they're pulling back and they're giving you an opportunity. I just want to know where they're going to find support. Credo is another one. Had a big move, right, from 29 up to, I don't know, was it 160 or whatever? And then it's pulled back 174. Now it's pulled back below the 21. Yeah, down 15, almost 16% last week. These stocks are going to pull back. I mean, after what, a 20-week, 4 months of just ripping higher, yeah, you get one week where it pulls back. And it might be 2 weeks or 3 weeks, but you just got to watch them. And like I said, find out where they're going to get support and when they're going to bounce. And you want to buy the bounces, not the dips. Reddit was down more than 6% last week after running what, from 94 up to, yeah, 282. Yeah, now it pulled back a little bit. Now that's healthy, I think. Have been really strong stocks. They've made big moves. This is CLS, which formed this, looked like a 3-week side. Essentially, this thing's been tight for 4 weeks. Um, not it doesn't pick it up because it's not exactly 4 weeks tight, but that looks like a little if let's go back to the weekly here. That looks like a little flag pattern to me. After running up, whoop, now it's just taking this time here, 4 weeks of maybe 5, 6 weeks of flattening out. You got to salute that flag for CLS. That one looks good as well. But yeah, they're pulling back. That's all. CrowdStrike, we know it had that big move the prior week. Last week pulled back, and this is why. I'm going to show you a bunch of stocks that are set up and looking, pretty decent here as we head into the fourth quarter. That one almost looks like a short stroke pattern here. It ran up a lot the prior week, 15%. Last week gave back 4. On real light volume. So yeah, that looks like a short stroke pattern in CrowdStrike. I expect that one to trade higher. Palantir pulled back, It's just in a base here, pulled back nearly 3% last week, just consolidating in a base. Another, it's a late stage base, as you can see here. Yeah, but it looks good to me. Let's check it out on the daily. Yeah, that's a nice little cup shape pattern. Maybe to shake some fools out, form a handle before ripping higher. IONQ is another one of these quantum plays that ran up, 34 to whatever it was, 76. Now it pulls back. It's a two bagger in a very short period of time. Pull back to the 10 on Friday. Definitely got to watch that one. You got to watch those big moves. It's just getting a little extended away from its moving averages. That's all. So it pulled back. Definitely one to watch. I showed you OKLO earlier. Definitely a leader to watch. IREN. I don't believe I showed you this one. Big move higher. Pull back to the 10. The last couple of days, but I think it was up on the week like 5 or 6%. Yeah. Oh, 8%. Not bad. And you can see this is just going parabolic here. IREN. What other ones we have? Oh, in that same group, CIFR. Yeah, just pulled back the last couple of sessions after announcing a partnership with Google in the same morning. Like 5 minutes later, they announced a secondary offering. So that's pretty bad optics for that one. But yeah, just a pullback of 6% last week. You can see it just made this, these flag patterns, which has been working, beautifully here as it ran up and then formed this little flag and then ripped higher, now pulled back last week. So these dips are being bought. So you got to pay attention to the bounce. What else do we have? Well, I showed you BE, another energy play. I'm definitely watching that one. SOFI, finance name, just pulled back a little bit. This thing's been on a heater, pulled back to the 21 last week. Let's see this here, 5% move. Yeah, that's fine. That looks good to me. Other one is let me see here. Oh, STRL. Definitely a leader in this group. Pull back, what, 5% last week. Let's see what that looks like on the daily. Yeah, just made this 321, pull back to its 50, then ripped higher. Now pull back to the 21 on Thursday and found support and bounced. So sterling looks pretty darn good. And the last one I have here. Oh, yeah, these names are all looking good to me. And this is why I'm bullish as I segue into the charts, that I like that are set up that I think in Q4 they're not all going to trade higher, but they're all not going to fail either. And there's just a lot of stocks looking like this. Quality stocks with, sales and earnings growth that are set up in these like cup with handles. Some of them have not made a handle yet, so they need to make a handle. But Roblox is definitely one of them. DoorDash is another one that I'm watching. And it just needs some time to form a handle, and these things look ready to take off to me. I showed you Palantir earlier, DoorDash, Palantir, Roblox. Who else do I have in here? I showed you CrowdStrike. I showed you NVIDIA. Yeah, these look good to me. I showed you Microsoft, and Apple and Spotify. Sheesh. Yeah, this one looks good. Just biding its time here. Netflix. Now they're going to report the 21st, so 3 weeks from Tuesday. And this thing's just consolidating in a base. I mean, this is a 514, billion market cap. This is a big kahuna, and it's the king of streaming, just consolidating in this flat base pattern here for 13 weeks. So it could run into earnings and then, fly afterwards. It could rally into the earnings. It's done that before. And then they get the earnings. It was the first stock before being liberated here, the first stock out of this double bottom base, and then it rallied up, and now it's been consolidating. So I'm thinking this earnings is going to be strong and it's going to continue to rally. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Some other names, not as much prominent in financial news circles, but Viva Systems, computer software, medical stock, consolidating in a base here. This one looks pretty good. Had a nice move on Friday. Let's take a look at the weekly chart. Yeah, this is, base on base pattern. Looks pretty good. Viva Systems, interactive brokers. There was some ruling that went down last week about trading less than $25,000 accounts. I don't know, something in favor of day trading, like the money doesn't have to take a day to settle or whatever. It's instantly in your account when you buy and sell. So it's good for day traders who like to do that. trade every day. But anyway, this one's set up in a base here. And so since I mentioned this one, I got to mention Robinhood. Robinhood is just, if you look at the daily, it's just in this little box here and it's trying to break out. Pulled back the last couple of days here. It really was up by 130 in the middle of the week here. It made this high. Yeah, just a tick over 130, then pulled back to its 10 the last couple of days. What else do we have here that looks pretty good? EME, this is in the building maintenance and services. This one just went into the S&P, but consolidating in a base, supported the 50. PWR, this is one of these quanta services, building the data center build out, just a nice cup-shaped pattern here. I like that one. I prefer Sterling, but that one looks good. And Jacobs Solution as well, consolidating in a base. So there's a lot to choose from this week. Anyway, that's it for me. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up, except in honor of the great Steve Jobs. I have one more thing. We heard earnings reports the last week or two from the home builders and the auto, and they're saying the same thing, like we need rate cuts. Now, I'm not an economist. I'm not going to sit there and say Jerome Powell is not doing a good job and they should lower rates, but these guys are saying it. Normally, I say, don't tell me about the, labor pain, show me the baby. But, the CarMax is talking about the tariffs hurting him, and Lennar and KBH are saying, we need lower rates. Your biggest purchase is going to be in a home or an auto, and you get loans for those, and they need the price of those loans to come down. A mortgage loan, it has been coming down, but we need we need rates to come down further to stimulate business. That's just simply what Lennar had to say. And they're providing incentives, which cuts into their margins here. As you can see down at the bottom, I have margins have gone, 15 here, consistently down to 11. And now last quarter, 9. So their incentive programs are cutting into their margins. So these guys are saying, I'm not saying it, these guys are saying it. They need lower interest rates. And like I say, I don't like to hear whiny CEOs, but they do have a point, to stimulate business here. And I've got to go to the weekly charts because these do look pretty good on the weekly. DR Horton is the biggest of the home builders. Yeah, set up in a base. This thing looks good. We get another rate cut or two. These things are probably, the bottom is in and they're probably going to take off to new highs. The home builders have been going through it for a while now. This is looks like at least a year in the making, right? When it made the high. Yeah, September 24th. So yeah, they've been in the dumps for a year. So I'm not saying it. They're saying we need lower interest rates. The CarMax CEO is super negative. He was, just kind of like pleading, please help me. And his stock got sold off down 23% last week. You can see a big dive here, but so hopefully we'll get some interest rate cuts soon in the next couple of months. A couple of them is in Q4, and I think that's going to stimulate a rally, not only in the stocks that I just showed you, but also in the home builders and the auto stocks. Even, if you look here at some of these auto companies, Ford, this is set up in a base here, just consolidating, ready to break out. And I think interest rates will definitely help Ford and GM, the large automakers. You can see this one was 3 weeks tight, and this one's kind of taken off. I showed you Tesla earlier. Another one would be Ferrari. Just consolidation, base after base after base. So I don't know if the people who buy Ferraris need the mortgage, need loans to buy their autos, but I think interest rates are coming. I think it's going to fuel a rally. I think a lot of stocks are set up in bases, like I showed you, and ready to move higher. And that's just where we are here as we enter the last week of Q3 and enter the first week of Q4. Thank you for watching at mcstockcharts.com. We never give up.